Chair Collins. We are here today to resume consideration of the CJS bill and take up the Milcon VA bill. And I do want to thank our Milcon VA subcommittee leaders, Senator Bozeman, Senator Ossoff, for all of your hard work. It is a good thing that by working together, we were able to put together a solid bill that invests in folks back at home. This is the way this process should work. Senators coming together and finding common ground on common sense investments. But I do have to acknowledge the elephant in the room here. It is no secret the path to advancing more of our bills is going to be harder because of the unprecedented partisan rescissions bill that Republicans just passed. It is extremely frustrating to see so many of the colleagues that have worked with us to pass funding bills turn around and vote to rip away the funding that we all agreed on. I've never seen anything like it because the Senate has never done anything like that before. We have never, until now, passed a purely partisan rescissions bill. It is a dangerous new precedent, and it poses some hard questions my colleagues across the aisle need to start answering. Because Russ' vote has not been settled. Round 2 of these partisan cuts are on their way soon. He said that this morning. So what do my colleagues want to do? Do they want to turn this into the rescissions committee? Because that is one path we could end up going down. And as of now, we are one big alarming step down it. It is not the path I want to go down. I want to see us turn back to what has historically made this committee so powerful and so worth being on in the first place, which is working together to advance bills that deliver for our constituents and get signed into law. And it is unfortunate that many members of this body have voted to make that a whole lot harder. That is the reality, and there is no ignoring it. Now, I do believe our work here is as important as ever, writing bills that make the voice of the Senate and the voices of our constituents heard, instead of letting Donald Trump and Russ Vought make the decisions with a forever CR. There is no doubt in my mind the bills that we negotiate together will be far preferable to the partisan House bills that cut like there's no tomorrow, or another slush fund CR. We've already seen this president abuse the power from the last CR to ignore our bipartisan decisions, spend taxpayer dollars as he sees fit, and rob money from blue states exactly as I warned about. We've already learned that lesson the hard way. We cannot throw in that towel again and let OMB hold up funding for our states or zero out projects we secured for folks back home. That's part of why bipartisan bills are so important. But everyone has to understand getting to the finish line always depends on our ability to work together in a bipartisan way. And it also depends on trust. Trust. And as I warned on the floor, bipartisanship does not end with any one line being crossed. It erodes over time, bit by bit. And frankly, I am alarmed by how quickly that erosion is happening right now over the last 6 months and certainly over the last 24 hours. We are racing in the wrong direction, and it is really on my colleagues across the aisle to decide if they're going to hit the brakes or go over the cliff. The question of whether forging a bipartisan path is hopeless or not will depend very much on whether this committee is able to lock arms and whether our colleagues will defend bipartisan deals from a budget chief who believes quite plainly that Congress and appropriators should have as little say as possible on federal spending. I appreciate that 2 Republican members of this committee ultimately took a principled stand against the partisan rescissions package. I really hope that more will join us in standing up for our power of the purse. Now, turning back to the bills before us today, the Milcon VA bill is one that I care deeply about. As the daughter of a World War II veteran, the programs we fund in our Milcon VA bill are very personal to me. Doing right by our vets, getting them the care they need and the support they were promised is a moral obligation. I'll have more to say as we debate the bill, including areas I'd like it to have done more. But the bottom line is, it delivers the funding needed to support safe and updated infrastructure for our troops and their families, and to keep our word to our veterans. As the chairman noted, we will also retake up the CJS bill. I spoke last week about the serious concerns that I share with Senator Van Hollen, and it is frustrating that after a bipartisan amendment was taken up, instead of advancing the bill, we recessed and are now only taking it back up with consideration of a partisan amendment. My hope is that we can ensure the integrity of the process for the FBI site, and it's protected along with the prerogatives of this committee. I am prepared to see what happens as this bill moves forward, but I will probably vote no if this does not get addressed. With that, I will turn it back over to Chair Collins.
Senator Patty Murray, Democrat, Washington, addressed the committee as deliberations resumed on the Commerce, Justice, Science, CJS, bill and the Military Construction and Veterans Affairs, Milcon VA, bill. She commended the bipartisan work of her colleagues in shaping the Milcon VA bill, noting that it represented the kind of common-sense cooperation that should guide the appropriations process. However, Murray quickly acknowledged what she called the elephant in the room, the unprecedented partisan rescissions package passed by Republicans. She described it as a dangerous precedent that undermines trust, reverses bipartisan agreements, and threatens the committee's ability to function effectively. Murray expressed alarm at the erosion of bipartisanship over the past 6 months, saying that the recent vote represented a sharp step in the wrong direction. She pointed to statements by Russ Vought, who openly signaled more partisan cuts ahead, and questioned whether the committee risked becoming nothing more than a rescissions committee. She emphasized that trust and bipartisanship do not collapse all at once but erode over time, and she warned that the pace of that erosion has accelerated. Turning to the consequences of continuing resolutions, Murray argued that the last CR had allowed former President Trump to override bipartisan funding decisions and redirect taxpayer dollars in a partisan way, often disadvantaging blue states. She insisted that Congress must defend its constitutional power of the purse and not surrender decision-making authority to the executive branch. While she acknowledged and appreciated that 2 Republican members opposed the partisan rescissions package, she urged more of her colleagues to take a principled stand for bipartisan cooperation. Murray spoke personally about the Milcon VA bill, noting her connection as the daughter of a World War II veteran. She described the bill as a moral obligation to ensure veterans receive the care and support they were promised, while also investing in safe infrastructure for troops and their families. She also commented on frustrations with the stalled progress of the CJS bill, expressing concern that instead of moving forward with bipartisan amendments, the process was being weighed down by partisan additions. Unless those issues, particularly surrounding the FBI site, are resolved, Murray suggested she may be forced to vote against the measure.